Hey there, friends. My name is Dana Marie, and I'm your host of Still Positive. How are we hanging? How's it going? What's the dealio? What are the vibes? What's the feeling? What's the energy? Are you making it through Mercury retrograde? Because I am not really. It has been interesting. I've mostly been on edge. I could also be on edge because I know I have a scan coming up, and then I know I have to wait a week to find out what the results are. So that's always causing scanxiety, scanxiety. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, but scan and anxiety, it's a real thing. I will be waiting patiently for some results. And usually when I have a scan coming up, I try my best to, put off everything that I have to do, really clear my schedule for a low stress week, but that did not happen this coming week. So we'll see how that goes. I'll probably be pretty tense, but whatevs. I think that it is rightfully so that I am tense. And you know what? Sometimes there's just nothing that you can do about that. So I will do my best to do my breathing and meditating as much as I possibly can. But you know what? Sometimes it's just going to come out anyway. So, and that's what it is. You can only be positive as much as your body can let you or your mind can allow you. And then you're just like, you know what? I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend like everything's okay. And then you snap a little. And hey, you know what? That's what we're here for. We're here for the reality of the situations, not the just push it off into positivity land where it's not actually real. Focus on it and then understand that, it's kind of a shitty situation that we find ourselves in as chronically ill and disabled people, but some days are better than others. And today is the day that I have pollen in my eye, and that's going to be the thing I freak out about. But I will get over that, as I will get over the scan, and then we will find out more about what is going to be happening coming up in the future. And that's all you can do. Just wait until the next thing comes. And you know what? I'm down for it. So today I am talking to Jacqui. Jacqui lives in the UK because she's really awesome and she has a new single that's coming out. So make sure to check that out when it drops. She is a singer and a poet. I won't spoil it for you, but it's really cool to hear how she collaborates with other disabled artists to make her passion come alive. We learned a lot about her disability with spinal muscular atrophy, and I learn about how she is the perfect baked potato. And I will leave you with that. Enjoy this episode of Jacqui living with spinal muscular atrophy. I'm Dana Marie, and this is Still Positive. Let's be real. People love to gloss over chronic conditions or disabilities with a fleeting comment like, just be positive, or a fleeting insult like, kale will cure you, as if your life was that easy of a fix. This is a podcast for when you face a different reality, knowing that positivity isn't a magic wand that's going to cure everything, but a flashlight in the dark that we may or may not have batteries to. Living with a chronic illness or disability makes you feel different, and your difference could be noticeable to others or not, but either can sometimes make you feel invisible. I'm here to tell you that your experience is valid and shared by others in the dark. Positivity is not the missing puzzle piece that's going to solve your life's puzzle, but it can be a beautiful tool that can help you grow, and sharing those experiences can make us grow together. You're a singer, right? You're a singer and also a poet.
Yeah.
I saw that recently you had a single come out. Is that true?
Not recently enough for me, but I wrote something for 2020 and I was commissioned to do a piece with Kid, who is a deaf rapper. So
So cool.
and that was released on YouTube last year. So yeah, I guess so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so recent, you know. I think that it's such a hard thing to even make music in general for me. Like I don't make it, so it's magic. So every time I see it, I'm like, that must have taken so long to do and like coordinate with other people. So I think that that was recent enough. But I'm sure that since you do it a lot, you probably want to do it more. But that's really cool. Where did you find, so you found Sign Kid on YouTube?
So we worked with an organization called Drake Music, and they paired us together and was like, here's some money, here's some time,
Whoa,
uh,
cool.
create something. So we had like a couple of conversations. We only met in person to like talk about the track like once. Yeah,
Nice.
one time. And then everything else was like digital or virtually. And yeah, we just kind of bounced back and forth and kind of spoke about ideas and then kind of like sent each other stuff and just kept going back and forth on that. So
That's
yeah.
so cool. And what was this organization? Was it specific to music or?
Yeah, they're called Drake Music in the UK. And they're an organization that does a lot of work around like inclusive practices and like technology that deaf, disabled, neurodivergent artists can use and what that means in like education and schools and things like that. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so cool. And I wish that there was something like that over in the States here. So you're living in the UK
Yes.
and were you born there and grew up there?
I always say I was born and partially raised here. But yeah, like London is home. East London specifically is home, and it's been home for like 90% of my life. So yeah, I was born here, partly raised here, had a good time. So
Nice. That's awesome. So first of all, were you born disabled?
yes. Yeah, it came out the womb, fabulous as ever.
Nice. Yeah.
And uh, like I have an older sister,
Mhm.
so my parents had kids before me, so they kind of knew the steps that I should have been taking. And
Okay.
then I was like 2 and still wasn't walking. Um,
Mm,
so my mom kind of was like, it's not strange. Maybe she's just a little reserved. Maybe she just likes to be carried everywhere. Uh,
right.
so went to go do a bunch of tests. Um, and turns out I didn't have one condition, I had two, which is like 1 in 500,000 to have those
Wow.
two together. So yeah, and then I guess life just started. Like I know no different.
Right.
So yeah.
Nice. So what are those conditions?
Yeah, so spinal muscular atrophy.
Mhm.
It's a really fancy way of saying the way my brain and like my neurons speak to the muscles in my body is strange. They speak different languages.
Mhm.
Um, and the other thing is sickle cell anemia, which is a blood condition,
Mm,
which affects 1 in 4 Black people or ethnically diverse,
right.
mainly Black people. Um, so those are the things.
Wow. And so you're you're one in a million. So you have your own special tag there. And so with the sickle cell anemia, do you have to go into the hospital a lot, or is there anything that like with your disability makes you have to constantly go to doctors or anything like that?
Yeah, with sickle cell, it's different for everybody, but I have to have like at least a blood test once a month.
Mm,
Sometimes I need to have blood transfusions. I'm on constant medication just to manage my sickle cell, which is managed pretty well. Like my doctors, A1. Um, yeah, and you kind of, and like with my disability, I have to see neurologists and other specialists and consultants because uh, having a neuromuscular condition affects everything in your body. So like breathing, my eyesight, just like things that people don't have to think about, like swallowing food. I love food. Ooh,
So
I am a
much.
foodie.
Yeah.
But as I get older, I have to watch like this kind of food I eat and things like that. And if you ask any of my friends, they'll say Jacqui will order half the menu. Just because I like variety too. If I get
Yeah,
tired of
right.
that thing,
Yeah,
I'm
a
like,
little
oh
taste of everything. Yeah.
yeah, crunch, salt,
Yeah.
sweet, spicy. Just gotta mix it up, and then I take half of it home anyway. So
Nice. Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. What's your favorite type of food?
I always say, if it was my last meal on this planet, it has to be jerk salmon
Whoa,
and
yes.
macaroni and cheese.
Oh,
But the
yeah.
good kind of macaroni and cheese.
What's the
Like
good kind?
the good kind is the one where you put some elbow grease in it, like, and it's creamy, and then like the
Oh,
corners
yeah.
are like crunchy. Like I need it to be a bit saucy. It can't
Oh,
be like,
yeah.
oh, there's no
It's
creaminess.
dry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you want that. But also crispy. I feel you on
Yeah.
that. That's awesome. And the jerk salmon with it. That is probably so good. I don't even know if I've ever had jerk salmon. They always do chicken. But I was like, that sounds amazing. And
Oh,
especially with the mac and cheese. Oof,
try
that's a
it.
good last meal for sure.
You can jerk quite a few things. I think people do know jerk chicken, but jerk salmon, oh, it's another
Yeah.
level.
Oh, yeah. That sounds so good. You're making me hungry. Oh, that's awesome. So like with the muscle and the neural connection, does that worsen over time or is it just standard going forward?
Yeah, so like with spinal muscular atrophy, there are different types. So there's type 1, 2, 3, 4 question mark. Which question mark because type 4 is kind of like an adult onset, so wouldn't really, you might have like had inklings, but it doesn't like manifest is the wrong word, but it doesn't present until
Mm.
you're like fully grown, which
Wow,
sounds
yeah.
like people growing like with, yeah. And different types have like different severities,
Mm.
and not to say that there isn't like a spectrum in each of those types, but for me it's progressive. So when I was a kid, when I did start to walk, I had like walking frames in school, and like I had to wear a helmet in school because I was always afraid that I was going to trip over. I was one of those kids that had to wear a helmet in primary school.
Mm.
But then, and then I used to walk around a bit like Bambi, in that first scene when Bambi's born and is like trying to figure out why they have 4 legs.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of got around like that, kind of like, whoa, like
Yeah.
center of gravity is off.
Right.
And then as I've gotten older, it's like, progressed. So I use my powered wheelchair,
Nice.
which that transition was a was a transition. But
Really?
yeah, it was because like in school, you don't want to be different. You just want to fit in with everyone else. And like my
Right.
secondary school was massive, and I just couldn't get from one end to the other because my lessons were all over the building.
Mm.
Um, I just couldn't do it in time. So by the time I got to one lesson, I'm already 20 to 30 minutes late, and a lesson is an hour. So by
Right.
the time I've gotten to that lesson, I have to leave that lesson to get to the next lesson, and it just became ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they were just like, "Well, you can try a power chair," and I was like, "Who, me? Try a power chair? What?" And the first one I got was absolutely trash.
Oh
Um,
no, yeah.
but the next one I got was like amazing, and I could keep up with my friends, and I wasn't exhausted all the time like carrying my body.
Mm.
I wasn't like getting home and like immediately like, oh my god, I have to sleep because I've used up so much energy to just get around.
Right.
um and then ever since then, whoa, Nobody can stop me now.
Nice. So you've only had two power chairs since you've
No, so I've
been, oh
had
no, okay.
like a whole range of them. They were all called different things. I'm currently on Jimmy 2.0.
Jimmy?
I should be getting Jimmy 2.3 soon.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Is that
yeah,
just your name for it? Or is that the actual like brand name?
no, that's just what I named them.
Oh, okay,
There was
good.
Tony, there was Steve,
Nice.
and now I'm on the Jimmys. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome. I love that so much. Um, and um, with that, is that is that covered by insurance mostly? Or
So
wait, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Totally different.
no, so it's cool. So in the UK we have the NHS and
Yeah.
we have wheelchair services. So it's pretty much free until you're 25.
Okay.
And then when you're 25, they will pay for like the standard power chair or the standard chair. And like if you want anything extra, you have to top it up.
Okay.
But it also depends on where you live. So different wheelchair services are great
Hmm.
and some are questionable.
Yes. Oh
So
yeah.
it's kind of like a what we call a postcode lottery kind of thing. Like depending on where you live, depends on the service you might get.
Right.
Um, and sometimes you might really need, like, say, a power chair that you can lay down in.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, that's not a necessity, that's a luxury. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's you know,
The technicalities of everything. Oh yeah, definitely. Always. But that's kind of cool. You get it covered until you're 25. That's nice.
and the thing is, after 25, you don't know that you get covered. Well, for me, I didn't know that I got covered until I was 25. Oh, well, yeah, this is always what it's going to be. And then turn 25, no, turn 26. And I was like, oh, so I'm going to be getting a new chair soon. They went, okay, so how much are you contributing towards the chair?
You're
What?
like, excuse me?
Who? Me? My bank
Yeah,
account?
right.
So yeah, like it's just I think that knowledge should be out there because if that was the case, the moment I turned 25, I would have asked for the whole shebang. I
Yeah.
want a chair that flies.
Right. Yeah.
I want a chair that changes color. I want a
Right.
chair that floats on water. I want all of it. So,
Yeah. I love that. I know, right? Your wish for the 25th year of your life. That's awesome. This perfect chair. So that was probably like you were saying in your middle school or your secondary school, that was probably a really hard transition because that's such a weird time in everyone's life. Like it's a strange age and everyone's sort of so self-conscious for the first time. And how did you feel about, accepting yourself in that time? Or like how long did it take for you to accept yourself in your power chair for the first time?
yeah, I think, and this is going to sound really strange, but I think I always accepted who I was and knew kind of my own ambitions and like where my limits were, where my boundaries were. I always
Mm,
knew that. I didn't fully necessarily need to accept because like the family that I have, I'm like really blessed, and the friends that I have are really blessed. And I grew up with a lot of men around me, like a lot of boys, and like so anything they did, I wanted to do twice as like better. You climb the tree, or I'm gonna climb higher.
right.
Um,
Right.
and I just always had that like kind of there's nothing I can't do. I think there was a point when I was an adult that I had like moments of oh like because there's this thing that happened called social media, right? And that came out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was used to dial up internet
Oh
in my
yeah.
childhood, right? You know, the little and someone picks up the landline and then you're off the internet.
Yes,
That's where
yeah.
I grew up, right? So I didn't really have any like doubts about who I was until I was like maybe 23, 24,
Wow,
20.
that's interesting.
And that was a really big thing of like am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to look this way? Am I supposed to act this way? And I never really fit into molds naturally. And I think because I grew up with a lot of male people around me, I just was a little more rough around the edges. Like if someone was like, "Oh, I'm going to a wedding, you have to wear a dress," I'm like, where do you buy this thing called a dress? And why are women's sizes so confusing? Like what are these things that you talk of? Makeup? What is makeup? So it was like a really weird time. And when people like the most I can do is eyeliner and mascara, can get away with that.
Right.
But when like I'm seeing people do full face makeup and contour, I'm just like, how? Where do you learn this magic?
Right.
Where do you learn this wizardry? Like, is there a secret society?
Right.
So I accepting who you are, but also changing the things that you can change and accepting the things that are out of your control is the thing that helps me even now as an adult to go, what am I going to worry about? And what do I just have to love? Because I am built like a baked potato. Everybody loves a potato.
That's true.
So you just gotta find your thing.
Yeah.
Vegans love a potato. Vegetarians, meat eaters, pescatarian. Everyone loves a potato. So like that's kind of my thing. Like if I love even 90% of myself, that's more than I can say for some people that I know. And I can carry that into whatever space I'm in and kind of remember who I am and why I'm in spaces. And imposter syndrome is real, but I'm in the same place as the person that I thought was looking at me for being in the same place. So we all made it here. So like, what are we doing? I think accepting is hard, but once it clicks, once you have your moment, like the sky isn't even the start of the journey. Like
yes. And I love what you said too about accepting a lack of control, like a lack of, everything has to be a certain way, because I don't know if everyone has that, but I feel like you feel out of control sometimes, especially with like I have a chronic illness or a disability. And I think that like that mindset of being like, I can't do anything about this, but I just have to accept this and make the best of it. And I think that that's so hard to first learn, or later on, like there's a point in which you have to like accept that. And I think that you finding that later in life is hard, but also interesting that you got to have such an extended amount of time in your youth that you were just, like floating around and just like really loving and accepting of yourself already. I think that's really great.
I think because when I was younger, I got told multiple times that I wouldn't make it to adulthood.
Wow.
So I think I just got to a point of I'm gonna have the most amount of fun while I'm here, and nobody on God's green earth is gonna come and rain on my parade. So I guess that shift for me, it was when I was like, oh, I have outlived all of your expectations. Maybe I'm too stubborn to die.
Yes.
So I think that's when I had to realize that you're going to be here for a while. So like, what are your plans for life? Because like, I didn't plan. I just was kind of going through the motions as well. Like, oh, I'm in school. Okay. Like I got good grades. Like I wasn't like my mom's Nigerian. She does not play around with grades. So I got good grades and I was like, oh, I'll go to college. Cool. Went to uni because again, my mom's Nigerian and I had to get a degree. And then I graduated and kind of was like, oh damn, you're gonna be here for a while. What do you want to do like with your life, and what kind of career do you want, and what do you love to do? And when I had that, I was like, oh, okay, so now I have to accept those things. But I think a saying that has always stuck with me is, why worry twice? So like if it's out of my control and I'm worrying about it being out of my control, and then I get to a point where it's actually out of my control, I've worried for all of that period of time when I could have just worried at the point of, oh, this is really out of my control. Like, so I think it's learning that you can change the things you can change, and there's things that you can't, but you can either accept it or be miserable about it. And
Right.
I'd rather eat donuts and laugh deeply and just accept that life is going to be a roller coaster. It's going to have some really crappy times, but also everybody is winging it. So nobody has their stuff together.
Right. No,
This is the
exactly.
first time we're here. And when people are like, oh my God, I've got my life together. I know what I'm going to do in the next 5 years. I'm like, none of us knew COVID was coming.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So unless you have a time machine, any adult that says, yeah, I have my life 100% together, run away from them. I do trust them.
It is so true. I feel that totally. I love too what you said about how, you're confronted with this timeline that you've been given, and to then get to that point and then proceed it. It's sort of like, whoa, I didn't even think, one, that I would get here. And then two, I didn't plan for this. So like like you're saying, I'm like floating around. And especially at that time when you graduate college, and I feel like everyone sort of gets into this like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Like I just got out of college and I'm supposed to be this adult, but I'm not at all. And like, what am I supposed to do next? But for you specifically, like getting to that point and being like, I wasn't even supposed to be here at this point. So, like, what the heck is this now? And then just like rocking it after that and being like, I'm going to do creative things that I really love doing. And I'm going to just like build that. Were you doing poetry or anything in college?
So my degree is music production and business. The
Nice.
reason why I
Yes.
chose that is because I was like, yeah, I'll do music production. I love music. Like I genuinely love music and how it's made and that creative process. And my mom was like, can you make money from music? And I said, I think so. She was like, oh, can you add something to your degree just so you can get a proper job? Like she loves
Right.
what I do now, but back then I think her thing was, I just need my children to survive in the world.
Right.
So I did that, but the thing is, I picked things that I love to do because I was just like, I'm here for a good time, not a long time,
Yes.
and I'd rather not do a degree in anthropology because that's not something that speaks to me.
Right.
And I kind of think that was my education process. I just pick things I gravitated to. I've always written. I come from a really creative family. Like at the dinner table, and me and my brothers do this a lot even now. Like someone will say a word, and then someone will say a word that's associated with it, and then someone will start a beat, and then we'll just like freestyle stupid things in the kitchen. Like, so I've always written, but I thought it was just like that's what everyone did. Like everyone wrote. I just thought it was the norm.
Yeah.
And like I sung in choirs and stuff as a kid and as a teenager, and that was cool. But I didn't know it could be like poetry could be a career, because my first like interaction with poetry was in English class when we're studying war poems. And I had like a really intense teacher that was just like, so he's talking about blue curtains. What does the blue represent? And I'm like, maybe his curtains were blue. Like, why does it have to be this deep? And
Yeah.
like her thing was like, no, analyze it. Blue means sadness. And he's like, maybe in a dark place. And I'm just like, but maybe his curtains were blue. Like
Right.
it doesn't have to be that deep. So I always thought poetry was for people who went to war and that was how they dealt with what they were going through, or it was for old white men in turtlenecks in basements and they clicked their fingers at each other. So that's my interaction to poetry. But then I met a phenomenal woman called Cat Francois, and she was the first like Black poet that wasn't like in text form, like she was a living, breathing person. And she did poetry different. And I said, oh my God, one, she looks like me, but two, she does poetry like this and it's fun. And she's talking about things that I can relate to. Like I can't relate to David in 1987
Right.
that is writing back to his lover because he doesn't think he's going to make it home. That's
Right.
really sad, but I can't relate to that. And she like just was amazing in kind of going like, learn the rules of poetry so you can bend them, break them, change them for you. And then from that moment on, I was like, I love poetry. All right, I did some shows and I was like, oh my God, I can have a career.
Right.
And then I always kept like music and poetry very separate because I was told like those two things do not mix. Like it's improper to mix those things. And I got to a point where I was like, kind of tired and I just want to do what I want to do. So
Yeah.
let's mix them up and have a good time.
Yes. And I liked that about the singles and the music that you have put out. I think that it is so proper for it to be. It essentially, music is a sort of poetry, but like having it together in like a more classical way, like having the poetry be solely poetry and being read like that, and then having the music with it. It just makes sense, honestly, to me at
Thank
least.
you. I
Yeah.
need that as a quote on my website. Just it
Yes,
makes sense. Yeah.
absolutely. It does. I think so. So that's great that you were able to find a mentor and someone to look up to in the poetry community. Is there anyone else that you looked up to when you were growing up?
There were loads of people, but I think I also struggled looking up to people, um, especially in the arts,
Mm,
because I didn't see that many disabled people. And that's just like, or when I did see them, it'd be like in a show and they just had like some dramatic, they're in a hospital bed,
mm,
or they're like the funny sidekick, or they're the like butt of the joke, or someone's little sister or little brother that their big brother or sister has to take care of them. And I was just like, that's not my story.
right.
And it kind of warps the way you think about yourself because like until I was like 13, 14, I didn't meet another like young disabled person. Yeah, until I was 13, 14. It was always like old
Mm,
people or in the hospital.
right, right.
So I always thought I was the only one. Like, um, and then when I saw them on TV, I was like, oh yeah, they're really sad. I'm really sad for them, but that's not my story. So I think growing up, it was a lot of like family members, and like I have a lot of aunts that are just badass. Like they're just, those women that you're like, I want to be you when I grow up,
Mm,
because they don't take any crap from anyone and they know who they are and what they want.
right.
Um, but in terms of like artistry, there's so many artists that I love, and like I love their work and stuff
Mm,
like that, but I can never use them as a blueprint because
right.
my journey is very different. The same way, like, you could give the same scenario to me and someone else, and it's going to be different because I have to do 25 other steps before I get to their starting point.
Mm,
Um, so that was always like a little bit of a struggle. But in terms of looking up to people, I think I resonate with stories of resilience. I resonate with stories of just pure joy in like its rawest form.
mm,
I resonate with people who have had to overcome in some kind of way and not in like a trauma porn kind of way.
mhm.
Like they don't bring it, like it's not, how do I, like it's not the first thing you see about them. It's like kind of like you just see joy and then like you learn about them and you're like, whoa, like you've done some things.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, you've seen
so
some things for
you've
sure.
seen some things, you've
Yeah.
lived some lives.
Yeah.
So I think those are the people that I've looked up to and that inspire me to be me, and I hope that my work does the same thing for other people.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I definitely agree that's it's hard to find people that you can relate to, especially because a lot of people look up to, you know, what you see in the movies and on TV. And when there's not the proper representation or even the proper attitude towards that group of people, you're just like, what is this? Am I messed up? And you're like, wait, no, they're messed up for writing it like this. Like, because it is, especially with like people that are sick or, you know, have cancer and stuff. I feel like I have a lot of like movies that I watch specifically for that. And it's always sad. And like, well, yes, it can be sad. It's just like, I've found like different communities of people that have cancer that are really funny and like very lighthearted about their situation. And it's like, that's more so the reality that I sort of tend to go with and not what I necessarily see on TV because I feel like that can be so skewed sometimes.
Yeah,
But
and also we're human. When no one is one dimensional.
right.
So I think that's like something that like I love to challenge is when people are like, oh, yeah, you have this. Okay, that doesn't mean that my favorite color isn't red. That doesn't
Right.
mean that I know how to cook. That doesn't mean that I don't drive like a spaceship of a car. Like all of these things
Right.
are part of who we are and like how we move in the world. So when people are like, oh, you're not well, I'm so sorry that you're not well. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, but you seem unwell too. Like, why are you going around fighting people? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So yeah, I think it like we're not one dimensional. We're not some homogenous blob of people. So
Right.
yeah, people need to just remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you have coming up next with your art and your music? What's going on next? What you got going on?
So I'm currently recording some new stuff,
Nice.
and I'm really excited about that. Um, Hopefully it can come out this year. I'm not going to put a date on it because I will shoot myself in the foot.
Right.
But yeah, I am writing new music. I'm creating. I've got a couple of shows coming up. Um,
Nice.
yeah, like it's I forget how much stamina you need for a show after 2 years, but you know, we'll figure it out.
Right.
And yeah, I'm just working on like helping or supporting the communities that I'm from. So that's Black, disabled, deaf, neurodivergent, women, all of those things. Those are the things that matter to me.
Nice. Nice.
Um, and I've started, well, me and two other people have started a collective called Triad. Follow us
Yes.
on Instagram. We do some cool stuff where, yeah, I'm just out here trying to be a decent human. That's
Yes. Yeah.
it.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for all those things to come out. In your time growing up and living your life, do you find that you can still be positive?
Yes, I have to be. Like, what other option do I have?
Right.
Gonna be positive or gonna moan and cry? And I'm not saying nothing, anything's wrong with crying, but crying every day. Do you know
Right.
how much energy it takes to cry?
Oh,
Like
right.
so much energy to cry. And if you need to cry every day for a certain period of time, I'm sending you all the love and light I can from my chest. However,
Right.
for me, I have to be positive. I have to be. I want to be light all the time, and like I want to bring that light to whoever interacts with me. And I, yeah, I choose positivity, and I choose. Now, don't get it wrong. I grew up in East London, so catch me on the wrong day.
Right.
But most of the time, I always lead with kindness and lead with positivity, and I am still positive.
That's great. Seriously, I love that so much. And I'm so happy because I even feel your light and I'm all the way here in New York. And I'm like just so pumped up from talking to you. I think that it's so great. And I just love your energy and just hearing all about your experiences and everything that you have going on. And I can't wait to see what's coming up next for you.
Yeah, if you're ever in London, Hit me up. I'll take you around. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I would love that. Seriously. There we go, friends. Miss Jacqui gracing us with her light, showing us a little bit about her personality and her life living with spinal muscular atrophy. Thank you so much for sharing, Jacqui. This has been great. I loved talking to you. I loved hearing about what you're up to. And, I loved that you're still finding positivity in your everyday, because it's a hard thing to do. But I think that with your attitude, a lot of people will gravitate towards what you're putting out and what you continue to share with others, because that's how I found you. I think that everything you're doing is so cool, and I can't wait to seriously see what's next for you. If you want to follow Jacqui, make sure to look down in the show notes and follow her on all the social medias. If you want to hear more So Positive, like and subscribe on our podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. We're on all the different platforms that you may have in your life. If you want to share this with a friend that has spinal muscular atrophy or any of the other chronic illnesses or disabilities that we've shared on this podcast, give it a share. Share the love, share the joy, share your feelings with others, or don't, whatever you want. That's fine. And follow me if you want on the social medias as well. All of this will be linked below. If you have any questions or you want to be on the podcast, down below, you will find what you need. But come back next week and we will talk to you then about another chronically ill or disabled person in our beautiful world who may or may not be positive. Thank you so much, and stay sick, friends. Love you.